might be called for crew.
Call this meeting to order. Council regular session, 7 p.m. Please join me in this Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll open it up for visitor comments. No visitor comments?
Yes, there is, but they're not going.
And please state your name for the record.
Dan Davis,
Dan?
live at 59171 Westshire. Sykes over that way. Sure.
Yeah.
Is this all right?
Yeah, it's not that we can't hear you, it's
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've listened to the,
You've listened to our council meetings before?
yes, I have.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right. I'm here as a new St. Helens resident.
Welcome.
Deb and I moved here in, well, it was actually Memorial Day of last year from Portland. Transplant from California. I will just say it out loud.
Yeah.
But it was a long, long time ago. It was a long time ago. So I've been an Oregon resident for about 23 years or so, something like that. One of my children was one of my kids was born here, but the other is California native. Yeah. So I'm here to recommend the council pursue what's called a municipal broadband public utility. Have you explored this at all, ever?
Yes,
To what degree?
very little.
Okay.
Talk.
Okay. How would you like to get real about it?
This is a different council than when we talked prior.
Okay.
I know that I utilize the city of Sandy as an
As a
example.
matter of fact, Sandy Net. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I use that as an example on
I didn't know
how
about Ashland, but okay.
how effective it was for their citizens, and what a great project it was.
Okay.
It's hallmark. It saves the citizens a tremendous amount of money on a monthly charge with really minimal amount of investment. Takes some work to string those lines and that kind of thing, but
Yeah.
other than that, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
We'd be paying, instead of $130 or $120 to Comcast, we'd be paying to the city $35 or $40 a month. And
Yeah,
that
that's
was
Yeah.
true back then when we looked at it, and I
Yeah.
believe it's even more true today in terms of the savings.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You should be giving this speech. Maybe that's why you're a counselor.
Yeah.
Let me give you some of the other benefits. Would that be all right? I only have 5 minutes, but let me just run through a couple of benefits. Something called net neutrality. If you haven't heard about this before, basically it means that we don't choke anybody off. Everybody gets a fair shake at the speed, at the benefits. When you're connected, you're connected. It doesn't matter whether you're a business or which particular business you are. You have access, the same access that any Joe resident has to the broadband. The speed is pretty incredible. I think Comcast comes in about 120 megabits per second, but fiber
On a good day.
on a good day, yeah, exactly. I remember when it was, well, I remember 9600 baud, but that was a long time ago. Fiber someday will approach 1,000 gigabits. That's what is predicted, but it's pushing 100 gigabits right now. So it's just do the multiplication. It's very, very, very fast. Businesses thrive on this kind of speed. Lots and lots of bandwidth. Security and privacy. Right now, the big guys, they take our data, and they do things with it that we don't really know about. That doesn't happen here. This is a public utility. We would own it. We would run it, and we would control who has access to the content that's flying back and forth over the wire. Reliability. This is a business that we run, and when I say we, I mean the city. And therefore, we want to deliver the best service possible. We're going to keep that baby up and running. All right? Affordability, you've already mentioned that, about 35 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar. And then last is accessibility. We don't hold back from anybody. Everybody gets equal access. And not only that, but because we run it ourselves, we can subsidize people who are who can afford it, because businesses might pay more. In other words, let's suppose we have schools that we want to give a discount to, or disadvantaged neighborhoods that don't have broadband or access to it. That's something we can do as a public utility that the big boys might not be so inclined to do. So let me ask you, if we wanted to pursue this, I have a suggestion. There's a fellow by the name of Michael Hanna, who's the campaign manager for something called Broadband PDX. And he's put together Hillsborough already. He's working on Multnomah County and the city. And I met with him today at lunch. I went to a presentation that he gave at a professional organization downtown, and I really, really liked what he had to say. I think we should pursue this, and I would be willing to work with somebody on the council or one of the commissions to bring Michael into the conversation, talk about, I know this word is the very first thing that you think of, right? You have to do a feasibility study.
Yep.
And feasibility studies cost money. So I asked Michael today, how much do these things cost? Well, that all depends, right? That all depends. But I'm just suggesting that we open the conversation. What do you think?
Well, one of the things that we talked about is a partnership with the CRPUD, our public utilities people, utilizing. Neil, do we own the poles? Utility poles, they own them. Is that correct? Okay. So there would be an issue of leasing or possibly even leasing out the maintenance of that.
Do we have any wire in the ground right now?
No.
Okay.
Other than from the utility pole down to the home.
Okay.
That's the only.
PGE poles, like the Gable Road poles that you're seeing move.
Yes.
Those are PGE.
PGE, and they are not CRPUD.
Correct.
So there's two municipalities that we'd have to deal with.
There's also Comcast poles or
AT&T or whatever.
Yeah.
There's an alternative.
CenturyLink, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a few of their poles.
One of the things a feasibility study would do for us is it would give us alternative, because there is alternative to fiber. Fiber's not the only high-speed solution. There's some high-tech stuff out there that uses combinations of unused TV band. This is technology I'm not familiar with because I'm an RJ45 guy, but the feasibility study would give us that, and even having a conversation with somebody more knowledgeable than I am in this area could be helpful. What do you think?
Definitely something worth looking into.
I'm not asking for a decision tonight.
Yeah.
Just
No.
thumbs up, and we'll.
I see my administrator was getting ready.
Oh, I was going to say that the the county is currently going through a broadband exercise, looking at identifying properties around the county that need broadband service, and there's some federal funding that's available to kind of move those types of local initiatives along. So,
Could you make room for a presentation by Michael Hanna at the next or near future meeting?
Yeah.
Always.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. More than the 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
what
put
do you-
them on the agenda.
Okay. Perfect.
We could either be in the evening, but we do a work session earlier in the day.
I don't know
about.
about Michael. Actually, Michael does work for Multnomah County, so let's figure that one out.
Okay.
I can take some time off. Maybe he can take some time off too, and we'll both come.
Like I
Alright.
said, we can even put them on the evening session,
Okay.
this session here too, so.
All right.
John, can you be the contact on
sure,
that?
I'd be happy to be. There's also another example with Monmouth, cities of Monmouth and Independence have gone together for MyNet, and
Okay.
That actually is okay now. It struggled pretty heavily on the front
Yeah.
end because of some of the costs and
Yeah.
the competitive with the private sector.
Yeah. I think Sandy expected or predicted a 35% take rate, and they ended up with like 60%. So they paid for it in less than half the time
Yeah.
that their feasibility study suggested they could.
Wow.
Yeah.
Been tracking that for several years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Really something.
We actually started ourselves with internet service years ago when we first had our
Oh, is
first
that
internet.
right?
Was over at the library and technology center,
Yeah.
and so that's where we started the first internet in town, the dial-up.
So is there any fiber here now?
There is.
There is. Okay. All right. Great.
What
Thank you.
was your name again?
Dan Davis.
Dan.
Yeah.
Well,
Dan and
welcome.
Deb Davis.
Yeah.
All right.
Did you leave your contact information on a sign-in sheet?
I did, yes.
Good.
Okay.
All right.
If you don't mind, I'm going to hang around.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Absolute. Okay, other visitor comments.
I just want to make a note to you guys that Dan also applied for the Park Commission.
Oh, cool.
For the what?
Park
Park
Commission.
Commission.
Good.
He was at the last Park Commission meeting.
Yeah.
Not as bad as I thought.
Okay,
Did you make that phone?
so moving on. Like I said, we do a lot of our work in the work session, so this is just a lot of resolution passing, the stuff we already talked about. Okay, resolution 1837, a resolution to adopt city council operating rules and procedures for the city of St. Helens, superseding resolution 1860 or 1468.
Move we adopt resolution number 1837.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1837. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution number 1838, a resolution adopting the city of St. Helens governing policy.
I move that we adopt resolution number 1838 as read.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1838. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution number 1839, a resolution of the city of St. Helens City Council authorizing application for grant to the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department.
I move that we adopt resolution number 1839 as read.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 1839. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution 1840, a resolution determining that a nuisance exists upon property located at 35418 Helens Way within the city, St. Helens, and directing that notice to abate the nuisance be posted on said premises.
I'd like to remove that until we handle another problem.
Councilor Topaz, can you turn on your mic, please?
I'd like to remove that resolution until we get rid of another problem that I think is a little more pressing in the way of nuisance. There's a group here in town that has a large amount of rotting material on their property, which happens to be the city, and I don't think we ought to chase a resident until our own house is clean. We have a large number of rotting paper cylinders on our property, on the order of 6,000 pounds apiece, a number, 100 of them, and I think it's inappropriate that we go after somebody. I do suggest that we try to have one of the youth groups along with the homeowner, where he pays for the dump fees at the transfer station, or he paints everything white so it looks like the paper mill. But I think we have a problem of being a good master and example for our citizens.
Thank you for that comment, and I would like to go back on D as read, and this would be a perfect example of making a motion, getting a second, and then having a discussion whether we're going to kill it or pass it.
Yep.
So just went out of order just a little bit, but your opinion is taken on this, and we can look at it as as his opinion at this point. So that we can move forward, I'm going to suggest that we do a motion on D, Resolution 1840 as read.
I make a motion that we remove 1840 and have a further discussion of it and the conditions of the city's.
There's already a motion on the floor. So
So we're waiting for a second.
if I can second it.
I'll second it.
Okay.
You going to second it?
Yeah.
Okay, now we can have that discussion.
Now, yes.
We have a tenant that is overloading a large piece of our property, and it's growing every day. And as you drive down Plymouth, it looks like the Alps are growing whiter and whiter. It is rotting, it is smelling, it is getting worse. And until we come up with some way of announcing to them that we have a problem that they should take care of, I don't think it's a good example to chase some of our smaller citizens. It is a problem, and it should be cleaned up. And we say a little nicer way to force them to clean it up than having a resolution, but we've got our own problem that we have to handle. And that's what, we look very hypocritical if we push this hard and not do it ourselves.
Well, so my discussion on this would be, since how we're in that mode right now, would be we have a city ordinance that actually, when it comes to residential neighborhoods, is a lot different than industrial property. And that's where the difference lies here, is that it's an industrial property versus a residential development.
That industrial property is owned by the city. It's a very, very bad example. It
Still-
may be the law, but it's a very bad example of how we treat our people when we don't do our own house correctly.
Steve, I'm all about giving a guy a break, but
He really ought to have a modified break. He ought to pay for cleaning it up. But I don't think we ought to push it until we somehow take care of our own house, even though it may be industrial. We've got to come to some agreement that we have a problem and he has a problem, and how we're going to handle both of it as compared to ignoring ours.
We haven't been ignoring it, Steve.
We haven't made it a public issue like we've made this a public issue.
Well, this, just so you know,
I'm-
there's some background on this property that Miramar has been in contact with the property owner, and he has been ignoring all her efforts, and so that's why it came to this point.
Yeah, well aware of that. And somehow I'd almost like to make more of a public example of him having to clean it up with the youth group and him having to pay for it. It's more of a adjustment of the legality of it. And again, as I say, our example of a lot of rotting paper is on our property. It's not our paper, but it's on our property. That's, something I'd like to raise my hand on.
Good.
Because some people are going to come back at us and say, oh, you do it for him, but for you, you don't. And that's what I'm worried about.
We have been talking about the issue on the property that you're concerned about, that the city owns and is now being leased. And we have involved ourselves with DEQ and
The fire marshal?
fire people trying to go forward with getting that removed. They have agreed to remove it. I'm not certain to what degree it has
June.
happened.
They last date we have was June. I don't see that happening, but that's the date they gave us.
And is it increasing or decreasing since
It's
we?
actually decreased a little bit the last few months, but it comes and goes.
So I think Mr. Topaz's comments are valid on that needs to happen and that we need to go forward. But these are two different kinds of things. So I do agree with the mayor in terms of being residential and this being commercial. And we have moved on it. It has been an issue. So we are trying to do something about it. You come along at a time when you weren't aware of what the council has been doing. So believe me, we have been doing what we can. Keith can enlighten you more on that, because I think he's the most frustrated out of anyone, because he kind of is overseeing that property.
There were other issues over there that we were more concerned about, so we gave them a little leeway on that one, but they did clean up other things for us.
One of the things we can do is make some of what we're doing public as compared to just knowing about it in the council, the different groups.
I've talked about it at my council report several times.
I'm well aware. I would then be a little more proactive into the newspapers and other places, so it's more than just, we'll say, the select group. Again, beating up on neighbors. I mean, I'm sure his neighbors would love him to clean that mess out 3 months ago, and probably have given many complaints. So there's that public touch there. We should have a much larger public touch on our own property. That's all I'm pointing out. I'm well aware that it's not something you can pick up and throw in a trash can and haul it off in one day. Just want to make sure that the public knows that we have a problem and that we know about it. And we're doing something about it as compared to being official and legal.
I think Mr. Topaz's point is well taken. We hear it, and I hope that we continue to bird dog that as time moves forward. That's my feeling on the discussion.
Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded to approve. Is there any other discussion before I go? Any other points? Okay, so there is been a motion made on resolution 1840 and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Okay, approve and authorize for signature a management and operation agreement with Columbia Pacific Food Bank for management and operation of the CDBG grant and food bank. B, agreement with McKenzie Engineering, Inc. for professional consulting services related to the feasibility of a new police station. C, contract payments. D, agreement with RV Park Consulting, Inc. for feasibility study for RV Park at 1850 Old Portland Road. And E, ground lease with Sand Island Campsites, LLC for Sand Island Marine Park.
I make a motion that we remove item D on the RV Park Consulting feasibility study.
Okay. Discussion.
Why would you want to remove that, Steve?
Okay, reading the contract, well, it says feasibility study here. It basically is the beginning of a construction process. There is no drop dead date if the feasibility study does not prove out. There, in that area, there once upon a time was a child or a daycare center, and that was pushed down. I guess it was a number of years ago because of the sewer. But the problem that I see, this is by a single spot sounds good, but the traffic, because of the connector and having a roundabout at Old Portland Road and 18th Street, that wasn't figured into the connector section of when they did that, and that would totally mess that up. But we've had a couple of problems of having continuous contracts. One is obviously is our tourism. It goes continuously unless we reach out and stop it. It's not automatically redone. The proposal that was shown to us at our retreat was 88 spaces, which is about twice the density of the manufactured homes location over behind the garages for the county and the city. So from that point, it looks like a terrible thing to put on the entrance of St. Helens where we were coming in. Now, we were just talking about this business of rotting paper on the mill, and the rent on the mill only involves buildings. So most of the ground in the mill is city property. We're not charging the people for warehousing their rotting paper, and that's kind of a soft point in our contract. We just had a problem with the water supply because we have a reservoir, and I asked Matt about did they have to pay for the water that they dumped. That was 1.5 million gallons, and it was told no, that's part of the contract. Well, we've dumped 1.5 million gallons over this process 4 times. Sometimes the first time we'll give you a contract, and then the problem was fixed, and then we found out it wasn't fixed, and it was still leaking, so we had to dump it again. That one, the company that did the repair should have paid for. Second company comes in and fixes it. It wasn't fixed, and we dump it again. And then we go the third time, and each time this is 1.5 million plus leakage. Now, I know if I buy a refrigerator and the food goes bad, they come out and fix it, and they pay for my bad food. But the 2 companies that did the membranes didn't fix it by contract. Okay, now I had a water leak, a couple 100 gallons. It cost me $100 in overages. This is 5 million gallons of water. We given it to these 2 companies for free. We still have to pay for the kilowatts and the manpower that pumps the water around. So I would like that contract a little tighter on what we call feasibility, and that should include the social acceptability by the community, what it will do to the traffic, specifically at that circle. Will it cut off the expansion of our industrial site? Well, it had been hoped at one time to enlarge McCormick Park along both sides of the stream. You won't be able to do that with this pile of RVs right there because it would be going through their backyard. The parking, you can figure 4 people per unit, and on a holiday they're going to have some visitors. This contract did not point out that type of parking. There's just a lot of things that were not in the contract that should be in there, and that's why I think that should be redone.
So
I'm not against the study. I'm against the way this particular contract is done.
So I'm going to speak a little bit that I don't ever recall there being a daycare down in that area. I've lived here all my life. I don't even know what you're talking about. And I'm 45 years old and grew up on South Ninth, and I played in that creek for a lot of years and explored that whole mill property, so I'm really unfamiliar with that. If you have a water leak and you get it fixed and you can prove that you had a water leak, the city will reimburse you on your water. There was so much there, Steve, I don't even know. We have talked about this in our council meeting extensively about what we had envisioned for a park down there and how that rendering was too tight, and we want something that's a little more spacious. I remember Council Carlson specifically talking about this, and in our discussion of agreeing to get a feasibility a study done on that RV park down there, and now it's on, ready for us to move forward in the city. And you sat in on all these meetings, Councilor Topaz.
Until I saw this contract and the things that weren't on it, what we discussed there, I agree with. What I saw in the contract, there are some big holes that I want to have filled, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying stop that. I say what I'm saying is correct this one. What was told to me verbally and what I got when I could read it all the way through, that's the difference. The verbal description of what I heard I agreed with. What I read is where the disagreement came. And now I pick up the paper to go through it by word, and that's where I have a problem.
I think that Mr. Topaz has a point, and he could consider his testimony as an amendment to the study, so that people who are doing a study could read over just what he said, and if they find anything pertinent into what he said, then it's pertinent to them. If not, that's fine. So I would consider your testimony as part of that should be looked at by the people who are doing this study. That's all. I mean, that's pretty simple.
Yeah, but that doesn't force them to do it. That just says they're interested or not interested. I want to make it on paper that there are some things that they do. And it does not include in this a traffic study, a parking study, a social impression as you come in on the connector. You have this very high density area, and we've had a number of discussions from the members of our community wanting to keep St. Helens like they remembered as a nice small town community. And obviously that gets to be tricky to enlarge our industrial base and so on. But when you put a double density unit in our main connector, our main way into town, it kind of ruins that social acceptance. And I'm worried about that.
It welcomes people as well who wants to stay here.
Yeah, yep.
There's two sides of that argument, and I just hope I would think that your testimony would be good enough for that committee or group to look at and take in consideration. I don't see why you are demanding that we redo all of this stuff, go back and ask them to sort through all the things that you're asking for. You've already got the testimony there. Let's just add that to what we will ask this study to consider. I think that's perfectly clear.
Is the asking going to be written on paper in the contract? If it's done that way, yes. If it's not put in the contract, we're not really asking.
Well,
So it's a
I
contract.
like to think that, I have all kinds of good ideas and beliefs, and sometimes for any one person, and this is what it feels like, because you have sat through these meetings to me, and I'm just expressing my own opinion as right now, and I'm getting a little emotional. It feels like you're taking the whole council hostage right now unless you get your way, or it's the highway right now, is what it feels like, Councilor Topaz. And we are a cohesive bunch, and we have been talking about this for months, actually years. Before you even came in, we've been talking about an RV park down there. Just so you know that.
I gave John
That's my feeling.
this week some written conversations between the city and some of its employees and staff about not talking to Topaz. So I really don't have a warm, fuzzy feeling that I'm totally included in what goes on. And some of this goes back to '09. As I say, on a contract basis, it has to be in there. Having the feeling what should be in there, we agree on. I would just want to make sure it's on paper, written down hard. And I want a traffic study, a parking study, written in there. You could, by good faith, say they're going to do this, but it's not a certain thing that they're going to do it, and that's what I'm pointing out.
An extra $30,000 it's going to cost the council for what you're asking, which has already been done. That does not make sense, Steve Topaz.
$30,000. Let's see, we're talking about a
maybe
$2.5 million project, and we're worried about $30,000. I mean,
50, maybe 75. We
So
don't know
one-
how much
one-
it's going to cost to
One
do
last,
those studies
one
again.
last thing is I oversee administration, and I have never heard John Walsh say, "Do not talk to Steve Topaz." And that those words came out of your mouth, and
now I said I sent him the papers of that. I didn't say it was John Walsh.
Okay.
Be very careful.
okay. Well, I've never heard rumor of people saying, "Don't talk to Steve Topaz," ever. Just so you
John,
know, Council.
did you see any papers with that statement on it?
You sent me some emails, yes.
Thank you.
If I could draw a parallel, perhaps, that might give some perspective to this, and that's the waterfront. And we've entered into a negotiating agreement with the developer. The developer is wanting to understand the market. He's hired some professional assessments, and they're kind of moving forward incrementally with their approach to the project. So they've done a hotel feasibility analysis. They've gone the Embarcadero Group's gone out, worked with them, developed this the number of units, which is appropriate for the city, the demand, understand the markets, the rates, which are all inputs into his his business model. And this step is really that step. It's understanding the market. It's somebody who does this, they have to come up with some kind of a, what is the market? Understanding the market and what the rate yields might be, how that introduced into a pro forma. The other more technical pieces about traffic flow and well, public safety is obviously going to be woven into it for sure throughout as it progresses. We're not going to improve anything that's not meet our standards, but I'm not discounting what the concerns you have with those elements, but I think this is kind of one of the first steps to really understanding that. I think what we received as a proposal looked to be too intense, and so we're reaching out to people that do this all over the country and initiating the process. So, if you want to. So, and if there's specific things in this contract that you don't see that you want to see that aren't cost add-on items, I'm sure they would look into it. So.
I couldn't be more accommodating to you, Mr. Topaz, of saying include your testimony with the testimony is just as an addendum to one of our counselors suggested that they take a good look at his testimony but to mandate that they do a traffic study, to mandate that they do all of these things all over again for what we've already paid for, it just doesn't make sense to me. They'll charge us.
I haven't seen any in the contract or any of the paperwork that any of this has been done. I've just seen a large site plan, which is very intense as far as density. I have not seen any studies or thoughts on the level of police requirement in these high-density areas or parking. We have talked about it, but have not seen any paperwork to prove it one way or the other. And I'm asking for paperwork is all I'm doing. Now, if we've spent a lot of money and didn't get this, we've wasted a great deal of money because we haven't asked the right questions up front.
Okay, so my thing would be right now, that mill used to employ 1,000 employees with all the contractors coming in and out of there, roughly about 1,000 employees, and it had trucks in and out daily. So I would have to state that there was never an issue with even the way it is set up right now, that there was never an issue with traffic down there since I can remember with that many people, and we have 100 employees at Cascade Tissue and probably about 20 at ACSP.
Wait a minute. Remember I said the connector plan. The connector plan
I know what you
puts
said.
that, so the fact there were 1,000 people in heavy trucks, we handled that before by not having a circle. We now have a circle. With this amount of people, is it going to be a problem? That's what I'm
The
asking.
consultants said that it would meet all the requirements and it actually is better than a traffic light. When I sat through and listened to that, and Sue Nelson, our engineer, was over there shaking her head because we've been through those meetings too.
The connector did not influence or have information from this RV park. That was the
Steve,
that was the other thing.
connector understands that that's industrial property and that it's going to be zoned in all different. The connector understands all that, Steve. I'm not going to pretend like I'm an engineer or I'm the consultant, but I know I sat through on these meetings as well as you did too for the connector plan, and we heard it from these people who are educated and paid to do this daily, do it every year, year-to-year basis. And they said, yes, actually a roundabout is a lot better than a stoplight. It allows people to flow a lot more smoothly and puts more people through than a traffic light would.
I move that we approve and authorize 5A through E as read.
Yep, he has a motion to strike D.
Hasn't been seconded.
It hasn't been seconded. So there's a motion on the floor, and I do not hear a second. So, yes, the motion has died. Okay, so as read, approve and authorize for signature A through E.
So is
I motioned
Doug's
that.
motion good now?
No, start over.
Okay. I move that we approve and authorize for signature 5A through E as read.
Second.
With the exception that we take what Counselor Topaz's concerns are, make sure the consultants
Yes.
are. Yes, okay. Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve and authorize signatures A through E. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A.
Okay. All right, consent agenda for acceptance. A, library minutes dated February 11th, 2019. B, planning commission minutes dated February 12th, 2019. C, housing need advisory committee meeting number 2, minutes dated February 2nd, 2019. D, parks and trails commission minutes dated February 11th. And that would be it on that one.
Move we accept consent agenda for acceptance 6A through D.
Second?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve a consent agenda 6A through D. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Okay, consent agenda for approval. A, council work session, executive session, public hearing, and regular session minutes dated March 6, 2019. B, OLCC license. C, revised court clerk job description. D, accounts payable bill list.
Move we approve consent agenda 7A through D.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda 7A through D. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I shared earlier about the Colpack meeting. I took over Councilor Khan's position on that, representing the city, and it was the annual meeting, and I was talking about an opportunity zone, and I look forward to bringing the council information on it in mid-April. I think it's very interesting. There's possibilities that we could do things with that, and we'll discuss that when it gets closer to being able to read what it actually is on paper, because right now what's being told to us is going to be on paper, and I think the guy did an awesome presentation. It was in Tillamook. You know, Patrick Trapp showing up earlier was very nice, Doug, and I would have to agree. Our relationships with the county and Port and other cities is actually stronger than it has been, and we understand that we're in this together, and that it's time to make Columbia County a destination. And welcome, Dan, by the way. Yeah. I'm married a Californian, so she's from Mount Shasta, not the lake, not Shasta Lake, Mount Shasta, beautiful country. So housing, you know, I was reading the housing need analysis study, number 2. We approved the minutes on that, and I know we got that final meeting coming up here fairly soon, I do believe. I see Community Action is moving forward with their 16-unit project. Rich Bailey is moving right along on that. So that's pretty cool. You know, Oregon right now, last year, to meet demand, needs 30,000 approved units. Last year, we did 17,000. And me and John sat in on this seminar at, what was that?
The Oregon Business Plan.
Yeah, at the Oregon Business Plan, and you know, that's 13,000 homes that were not filled. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what our housing needs analysis comes back with. Tonight is a supermoon. If you get out there and look at it. The worm supermoon. Yeah. Yes. And unfortunately, sometimes when you have those full moons, fishing's not that good, but the springers are running. And they are catching a few.
It's pretty good at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. And they are catching a few. This is my favorite time of year. It's my craziest time of year because I'm a landscaper, and we always seem to be ramping things up at the city here as well. come out of the winter hibernation and everything's just full force. And but I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, I'm all in on this, and I know we all are. That's why we sit up here and go through a lot of hours in meetings, in different meetings. So, and we're doing some things. We are actually moving some things forward. So, I'm proud to be part of this, and you know, we got a rocking staff. So, you know, it makes a difference. It does make a difference when you guys enjoy coming to work and you're willing to look at different things that the council ideas we come up with, and sometimes they're off the wall, sometimes they're not. So, but you're always there listening, and yeah, that's all I got for my report. So, Council President Morton.
After my report with a suggesting a proclamation or resolution that kind of tied in with Margaret Jeffries, our head librarian's READ program, she approached me just briefly and said, you know, that would be really a good idea, and I would really like her to talk a bit more about that as how it could tie in with her READ program. And so, maybe not now, maybe in your report, that would be fine with me. And so, if you, I really think it was a great idea that you came forward, and it's always good to team that way, and I appreciate that. So, with that, I'm looking forward to Margaret's report. Yeah, thank you. That's it.
Thanks. Councilor Topaz.
I would like to thank John. As you know, I raised a lot of concerns about the legality of having a sidewalk with bicycles on it in the connector plan as we left the veneer plant going up beside the sewer processing plant. And John, and the discussion came up that there was going to be turned into a path as compared to a sidewalk. And John fortunately gave me the federal regulations on paths, and a lot of it was based on work that the Dutch had done. And it ends up, it's a two-way street. There are regulations for what a path is, especially when it's shared with bikes. In fact, there are three types of bikes that they talk about in this study. Bikes run by people from 13 to 18 without driver's license, 13 to 18 with driver's license, 13 and older with driver's license. And this really determines kind of how they pedal. The studies and recommendations did not involve skating or rollerboards or wheelchairs, just people walking and bicycles. And if you follow the regulations, you need a path of about 15 feet. In other words, to have a legal path under federal regulations, you need basically a road width, traffic width, the 15 feet that we use for a standard traffic. So if we need a path around that corner, we got to take out 15 feet of rock to be federally acceptable as a path. Otherwise, we've got an illegal 4-foot sidewalk. Now that path description, because of numbers of people, gets to be about 25 feet. So if we have a legal path in front of the waterfront, following federal guidelines, it's going to have to be 30 foot wide.
That's a good point, and that's been talked about before. Is removal of that rock early on. That was a question that consultants had to us and suggested that. So it's hasn't been looked at until you suggested it now. Well, it has been looked at, and we've talked about it briefly, but you bring it up in your council report. Could be an action item.
Yep. Anything else, Steve?
That's it.
Okay. Councilor Locke.
I wanted to add a little bit that Patrick didn't add on his report. So this biofuel that they're supposed to be making in Port
Renewable.
Renewable.
Yes.
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 Kind of, it's same as
Green.
biofuel. Anyway.
Green.
It's not going to be delivered by rail. Almost all of it will come down the river on barges and leave the place on barges. So it's not going to increase rail traffic very much. So that's the good news. The other is Henry brought this up, that that we have discussions with him, and so Neil, question is for you. Henry wanted to know what all the cities and county and used as far as diesel is concerned, and wouldn't it be nice if on the back of all of our trucks and whatnot it says renewable fuel used in this rig in all the cities in Columbia County and whatnot? So Henry's going to look into that and see if maybe we can even get a little bit of a discount or whatever. So
Yeah.
the other part is that they are not asking for an enterprise zone or anything. They're going to pay their taxes right up front. No discounts.
Do you realize they're willing to invest almost $1 billion?
It's over $1 billion, and they don't want a tax break.
Wow.
Isn't
that's
that good
neat.
news?
That is good news for the county.
So Keith, are you suggesting that our entire fleet go to a diesel kind of,
Whatever diesel rigs we have,
and new purchases?
yeah.
Do you know if they're gonna sell to local vendors like Lawrence Oil and Wilcox?
Only if we, strike some deal with them, or whatever. But I don't know.
That'd be the best way to get it to
Yeah,
us.
like right now, that's
For
why we just
storage.
went to Lawrence to get cards and stuff, because our diesel tank went gunny bag big.
Yeah, I heard about that.
So we decided it'd be easier to go that way.
This little TDI is
Heard there's a little bit of water in it. Oops. It's a little old.
We might have to buy a new tank, huh?
Well, we're gonna just probably stay with the card lock system, because we think it's gonna work better for us.
Well, yeah, this probably be a couple years down the road,
Yeah.
I'm sure. So, but
Right.
anyway, yeah,
those turbo injection engines are.
it was a good suggestion. I think would be look nice, yeah. So that's it.
Okay. Sue.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. Neil.
I have nothing.
Margaret.
I can't say that. That's right. It's my moment.
I don't know if you've ever said that, Margaret.
Back to what Doug was saying. I'm for those of you who weren't here for the work session. All the libraries in Columbia County are having a program in late April called Columbia County Reads, and the books for this program are already available in all the libraries for checkout. But the titles have to do. One is a nonfiction account, and the other is a fictional account of a time in Oregon's history when there was slavery in our state. And that's not a fact that's widely known to a lot of people. And so we're featuring these two books by two different authors. And Doug made the comment that he thought maybe it would be appropriate after the program is finished to have a declaration or a proclamation by the city supporting, anti-hate or anti-bigotry. And my comment to Doug was, if the city was to consider a proclamation like that, it might be more appropriate to do it in advance of the program. What we have done in the past with proclamations that relate to things that are going on at the library, like National Library Week or whatever, is that we print them out and put them on display at the front counter. And it might even be appropriate in a situation like this, if you did come up with a proclamation, to read it in advance of our event. So it just would be one more way to promote awareness. I will say that when we looked at this program, it wasn't with the intent of focusing on race per se. We were mainly interested in illuminating this period in Oregon's history because we had these two authors that had taken a different look at this same event. But it does have a lot of relevance in today's events that we're reading on the news. So I'll leave that up to the council to decide, but I was just saying beforehand might give us some advantage to draw more attention to a position that the city may choose or not to take. The other item that I wanted to get some guidance from the council on has to do with the use of the process of applying to place donated items on public property versus the process that we have in the municipal code of placing art on public property. And right now we have two different groups that have created what are referred to as little free libraries. There were in existence initially two boxes for that purpose of having a take one, leave one, take one sort of library. And you technically are not a little free library unless you pay a fee to that organization and they issue a plaque for the library identifying it as one of their own. And then they list the physical location on a website so that anybody coming in your town can Google Little Free Library and find out where those are all over your town. Well, initially the Friends of the Library created two of those kinds of libraries, one at the food bank and one down here at the marina, but they weren't part of that national organization. They just were providing a location to exchange books. Since that time, the Arts and Cultural Commission provided material costs for high school students to make 3 in their woodshop class. And the first one that was created was placed in Gray Cliffs Park. And there was a fair amount of discussion and pushback because the process for placing art on public property, which is in the municipal code for Arts and Cultural Commission, was not followed in the placement of that library. Subsequent to that, the Friends of the Library have decided to have another of theirs, which is not part of the official program, and they wanted to place it in Walnut Tree Park. And so now what we have is the Friends of the Library group feeling like the process just involves getting permission from the Parks Department to put one of these in their park, versus the Arts and Cultural Commission feeling like you have to go through this formal process where you actually have a public hearing for art. And I had a conversation with John after the work session, and I guess my particular opinion is that these really aren't art. They're functional pieces that can be decorated with artful images, but I don't really see them as art. And so what I'm asking is if, rather than going through the public art hearing process, which the Arts and Cultural Commission always does for anything that they purchase with their funds, which they did for 3 of these, is that instead we just use the application for placement of donated items on public property instead for these. And that would mean that, I don't know if that was done for the one at the marina, but I mean, it's been there for years now. And it would only apply if they actually placed it on city property. If they just elected to do it somewhere else around the city, then it would just be up to whoever agreed to accept it.
I totally agree with your assessment that those are functional pieces that supply or are structures that house library books. And as an art form, I don't think it qualifies for the arts and cultural group unless it gets extremely into a sculpture or a functional type of sculpture, and I don't think that's the case. So I think it does go back to the parks, and with that very simple form that you have, I think it'll work. For the Arts and Cultural Commission being out that money, is that the sore point right there?
No, I don't think it is at all. I mean, I think the idea kind of migrated from the original project where they had high school students in the metals class making bike racks. And so this kind of evolved into, well, let's have some kids in the wood shop make these free libraries. The way this whole free library system works is that anybody, anywhere, can have a box and put one in your front yard. You see those a lot of times where neighborhoods somebody will just put one in their front yard and they'll make sure it has plenty of books in it, and then they register it on the site and people can
Well,
come
if it's
by
in a
and get
park, we have a form for it.
And
And
I-
it's that simple, as far
Okay.
as I'm concerned.
Well, it avoids the cost and effort of a public hearing for something that I don't really think qualifies as art. There is one fourth, there is another design that has been created by the husband of one of the Arts and Cultural Commission members that involves copyrighted images on it of Dr. Seuss illustrations. And they've gotten permission to use those because I was concerned that if that one got placed on city property, there would be some liability of copyrighted material being used. But as it turns out, they have contacted the Seuss organization, and they actually are in partnership with the Little Free Library Corporation and are excited to hear that there's a box that has those images on it. So that one's, I think, is going to get proposed for Campbell Park. But that one is one that was created by a private citizen. So you'll see that one, but that won't be part of the 3 that the Arts Commission had paid for. Well, that sounds perfect because I think we need a simple process. These things are sprouting all over. Thank you.
Everybody in favor of that?
I am.
I make a motion that we allow bookcases of any shape to be put on public property, whether they're called, was it little libraries, little free libraries, or whatever. I mean, it's just a rack. You can like it or not, but it's just a rack like a bike rack.
But they still have to fill out the application form for public property, placing on public property.
Same with the bike rack.
Yep, yep.
No
So
problem.
amended.
I still think that if they're gonna go in the parks, the park commission should be in on the approval of the
Yep.
site.
And yes, or maybe even the supervisor, because sometimes they can be right in the middle of.
Third base.
This park was designed by the mayor, so, but I still think that if it's in the parks, it should go through the park.
Good point.
It has sign-offs. So once they apply, you can say which sign-offs are required. So that could be
Okay, a motion's been made by Councilor Topaz and seconded by Morton.
Yes.
Go ahead, John. Discussion.
I think the question Margaret's asking is are these little libraries public art?
No,
So
no, no.
I think that the motion's related to not requiring them to be public art.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so amending the motion again, that it is not public art, and they just need
Can you
to.
repeat the motion?
So it's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It's okay.
So anything else, Margaret?
Well, I was
Okay.
only concerned because he mentioned any size.
Of library?
Yeah, book rack. Did you say any size?
Yeah. How big is a book?
Well,
They come in any sizes.
Well, this could be a building
they
3
don't
stories
come
high.
This big.
I said any size. I didn't put it in centimeters.
It still has to go through the process.
Okay, it must be a full moon.
So goes little library.
Matt,
You might have to move, Margaret. Get a bigger library somewhere.
you're good? Matt's passing. Kathy, you got something? Huh? Nothing? Tina, do you have anything? Okay.
It's been 2 hours.
It's about tomorrow at 2:00. Our new prop is going to be coming to the center. I just got a little message email, so we're going to be installing our salmon festival prop in the center of the plaza tomorrow.
Nice.
So
Cool.
watch for it. It's a salmon house, and when you go inside of it, it tells the story of the salmon on the river. And it also has salmon that are going around the outside with lights, so it looks like you're under the water looking up at the salmon fishing.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
2:00.
Okay. John Walsh. Kathy already refused. Kathy already shook her head.
Chamber dinner tomorrow night. And with regards to the riverfront connector, the planning staff has kind of heard some of these comments about that, both the slope and the width of this multi-use path, and there's some code work that's related to that. So when we do have the next public hearing, there'll be some specific conversation regarding that issue, some of the issues that have been, or concerns that have been raised. Lastly, fireworks on the island. This is the time of year we start thinking about fireworks. We're trying to initiate those types of things. I heard last that we were going to go back to the island, and I want to make sure, because it comes with some expense, and it's
got some logistic stuff that needs to be ironed out.
There's some positives and there's some negatives. I mean,
There is a group that will help put it on, maybe, if they're still around. I can find out.
So Western is looking at sharing a barge with Rainier. So because they do it on different days, apparently.
Yeah, they do it the weekend after.
Yeah.
So they just load the barge, put it in place.
Oh, they're wanting to shoot from a barge and not the island.
Right. On the barge.
Yeah.
We've had it at a maritime festival on a barge. The viewing out front is much superior to along the waterfront here.
I remember that show. Yep.
So there would be no different having a barge parked over there right in front of the island and it's a lot easier because they can pull it out, set it up, launch the barge.
Have everything ready to go.
It does come at a cost.
They set all that up then.
It does. It's got a lot of logistics because you're in the Coast Guard and you're in the channel and
it also
get Coast Guard approval.
Yep.
I think it also offers Tina some opportunities there to capture more of the expense with having better viewing and tailgating and things of that nature. So.
Yeah, it does actually.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Look forward to it.
I got one thing.
Okay. Anybody need to go back?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, I want to entertain a motion for the staff to create a proclamation or resolution regarding racial bigotry and ethnic hatred in conjunction with in conjunction with Margaret's program. That's my motion.
I would second it.
Got a second?
Can I second it?
Yeah.
Okay, I second it. So there. I didn't know I could second. I thought I had to just
So
wait for you
discussion.
guys. Discussion.
So I've been sitting here reading our code of ethics, and it covers a little bit of it, but not in plain language. So I think we could, can we just amend the resolution that we have for ethics?
No.
I think this is different in regards to like declaring something,
It's a proclamation.
proclaiming something.
That's right.
And
why I
really
get
making
paid the
this
big
stand
bucks.
out. The ethics is more for our day-to-day operations, employee behavior, council behavior, that kind of thing. I think this is more of a, really like making a statement.
I agree with Kathy.
So
I don't agree with. I
the
don't disagree
ethics,
with that. No.
the ethics we live daily, and the proclamation is more of a statement. That's what she's saying.
It's a banner.
But they're both daily.
They are, but the proclamation is more of a.
I think Neil
That's what
volunteered to
It's
write
a banner that's going to go down that Kiwanis Day parade, right?
I just was wondering if we have to lease back the end of the island from Brad to have the fireworks.
It'd probably give us a good deal.
Yeah.
Are they camping?
Okay. Any other discussion on it?
Um,
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to have staff draw up a proclamation on bigotry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Any
Thank you.
last call? All right. We're adjourned.
Thank you. Appreciate it.